ER was easily one of my favorite shows in the 90s, but I didn't really inhale. My wife and I binged it last year. I mean, that's a lot of shows to binge, but the acting was incredible. The casting was some of the best I've ever seen. Anytime you watched, you knew you were going to be brought in, drawn in. I actually cried when Dr. Mark Green died, Anthony Edwards, and I don't do that a lot. So we're so happy to have the cast here today, at least some of them. I have three of the best, the other one's not so good. Today I have Juliana Margulies, Noah Wiley, and the great Anthony Edwards. Anthony, let's start with you. I heard there was madness in the cast and on the set.
When you came to work and when you played with all of these wonderful people, we laughed nonstop.
No, I've always had the feeling you've taken yourself a little too seriously. Like, I don't know, like the world's about you. Is that true? Or maybe you didn't take yourself seriously. Which is it?
Erase the lines between foreground and background and cast and crew. We're all going to take our work seriously, but we're not going to take ourselves seriously.
Juliana, forgive me for this. I just get the feeling you're really self-centered, on high on yourself, like you were always about the ratings.
I remember when because I didn't understand ratings. I didn't know what that meant. And I think our first show, right, we got a 44 million. And then when I went on to do The Good Wife, they said, we're a hit. We have 14 million.
Anthony, do you think the cast was on good behavior and basically stuck to the script and focused all the time, or did you just jerk around a lot?
I mean, the image I always have is like we were on stage 11 and we were just laughing. And so while in the show, everybody's dying and everything. And next door at Friends, you go onto that stage and it was like a cemetery. It was like, there was no laughing. There was nothing. I'm like, aren't you guys like, it was a total reversal. And of course they were wonderful and doing great.
No, I've heard other actors say it's all about the alphabet. Like, how can you work the alphabet into something? Or I work like the alphabet. What do you say to that?
You kind of laid out, the ABCs of professionalism, and that just became the standard that we operated under.
Yeah, I can see that. How you have to be ready, prepared, know your lines. Juliana, I have to ask you, did your mother ever teach you to, like dress for the weather?
Most of it's in LA, and you would run out of the ambulance bay to get to the ambulance in your scrubs in LA, and then cut to we're in Chicago and it's 40 below and you're in cotton scrubs and clogs and you're so angry at yourself for not putting on that jacket when you could have.
Anthony, I know this is a really weird question, but were you ever in love?
We just had a synergy of people, and I feel like I laughed and stayed in love for 8 years.
Was there anyone above you, like, a showrunner or a director that was, always kicking your ass and making you feel, like not as good as you could be?
It should be standard operating procedure, but in a way, it was something that we kept our own counsel and were harsher on each other as castmates than anybody else above us was ever going to be.
Juliana, I know this kind of puts you on the spot, and I'm sorry about that, but who were the biggest assholes on the set?
Tony and George and Noah and Eric. And we were in Chicago, and we decided to go and have dinner. I think women were throwing their panties at them.
For real? They were throwing their panties?
One of those bizarre, I remember just sort of standing back because the crowds came in and they were screaming for the guys. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
You had all that terminology, the I've got to intubate, or I've got to, stick a pole in someone's side. Is this stuff you made up, or did you, have to study for it?
That ultimately became second and so as a result, like you had to be prepared.
Anthony, you and I were talking before we went on just a little bit ago, and you were telling me about getting your COVID test and how the doctor flipped.
The doctor came in and was like, just went off.
No, I asked Juliana a little bit ago, as you heard, who the biggest asshole was on the show, but who do you think the best actor was on the show?
An unapologetically talented Black man who didn't cater to anybody's opinion or didn't care to be liked. And it was a really unpopular character to play.
Wait a second. I didn't know Denzel was on ER. Wasn't he on St. Elsewhere or something? There's no way you guys actually learned all the shit you did. I mean, you were just winging it, or did you, fake it half the time?
Just fake it. If they're watching that, it's trouble. But the fact is, all the good stuff came out of trying to do it for real.
Quentin Tarantino came to direct us, and he was such a big fan of the show.
Wait a second. Quentin Tarantino directed one episode of ER? You got to be kidding me. The guy from Pulp Fiction. I've heard he's really impatient and likes to hit it and go.
He only did one take. So we would rehearse. We'd do one take and goes, good, let's move on.
He was standing for something that was extremely significant. It was on the vanguard of something way ahead of his time. And I wish he was here to take the bow for it.
When Mark Green died, it was one of the saddest moments I've ever had. I was weeping. A grown man was literally weeping. Juliana?
Oh my God. I have to get a tissue.
Okay, guys, I think I've taken enough of your time. I can't thank you enough. It was one of the greatest few minutes of my life. And truthfully, I want to thank you again, Noah. I want to thank you again, Juliana. And I want to thank you again, Anthony. So if you haven't seen it, tune into ER. It's streaming somewhere. Thanks for joining us.